everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for the latest installment of our Evolution of Mindfulness speaker series. So, my name is Frances Sadi, and I serve as the Associate Director of Non Degree Programs here at Brown University's School of Professional Studies. We are so glad that you are here for this important conversation. So, whether mindfulness is central to your work or it's something that you're just beginning to explore, you are here with us as part of a global community engaging with these practices in thoughtful and meaningful ways. And your presence really helps shape this space. So thank you for making time to be here and engage with us today. So, as a bit of a background, the Evolution of Mindfulness speaker series was first created to explore how the engagement with and practice of mindfulness continues to grow and adapt over time, and how mindfulness practices rooted in contemplative wisdom are being integrated into healthcare and shaped by scientific research and reimagined in response to the social, cultural, and ethical challenges of our time. So, here at the School of Professional Studies, our mission is to empower adult learners and professionals such as yourselves with the tools, skills, and networks that you need to make meaningful change in the world. We believe in helping our learners not just succeed in their own careers, but change the way the world works for good. Our mindfulness offerings, developed in close partnership with the Mindfulness Center at Brown University School of Public Health, reflects that mission. So together, we aim to deliver high-quality, research-informed mindfulness programming that supports individual well-being, professional development, and the broader movement towards collective care. And so, over the past year, we've had the honor to host a number of leaders in the mindfulness field. And if you haven't already done so, we encourage you to check out our past talks by visiting our YouTube playlist. I can put a link to that in the chat later. And so, many of these conversations have really centered around research, program design, and the broader systems that shape mindfulness today. So today's conversation, though, will be a bit different as it looks to bring us closer to the ground, to the lived realities of teaching and practicing mindfulness in complex, dynamic, and awfully deeply nuanced and challenged contexts. So today's session, Mindfulness Across Borders, Cultural Responsiveness in Practice, is a powerful and timely conversation, one that invites us to reflect on what it really means to offer mindfulness in ways that is not only impactful, but also ethical, inclusive, and rooted in cultural humility. And so, as programs like Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction or MBSR continue to expand globally, they do not enter a vacuum. They meet living cultures and communities, each with their own histories, healing and contemplative traditions, and different ways of being. And so today we're asking what becomes possible when mindfulness training and practice is adapted with care, responsiveness, and deep respect for the people and places it meets. And to help us explore that question, we are honored to welcome Paula Ramirez, a Colombian born anthropologist, certified MBSR teacher, and peacebuilder who has spent the past 15 plus years working in over 20 countries, including conflict affected regions across Latin America and Africa. Paula is the co founder of Respira in Colombia, an organization dedicated to bringing mindfulness and nervous system regulation tools to communities impacted by armed conflict. And as you will soon see, Paula's work is grounded, relational, and deeply embodied, offering us a view of mindfulness that is not just conceptual, but applied in the most human and often the most vulnerable settings. And joining Paula in conversation today is our very own Lynn Koerbel, who is the Associate Director of MBSR Teacher Education here at Brown SBS, as well as an Assistant Professor of the Practice at Brown University School of Public Health. So Lynn will guide the dialogue for the next half an hour or so, and then we will open it up to a time of audience Q&A, which we'll be pulling questions from previously submitted questions, as well as inviting live engagement with the audience. So please feel free to use the Q&A feature found at the bottom of your screen. If you can, let's reserve the chat for comments, and then we'll save the Q&A for your questions. It just helps us keep track of things as we go along. And also, we are, as we have in the past, we are recording today's session, and we will make sure to share a link to the full video via our YouTube channel after the event. And so, with that, it is my pleasure to hand things over to Lynn and to Paula. Thank you both so much for being here today. And thank you to everyone online who made time to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Fran. And thank you, everyone who's here. And thank you, especially Paula. This is such a privilege and an honor to have you for this series. As we launch into this conversation, we start each of these as a through line with the same question, which is what first led you to mindfulness and to teaching mindfulness-based programming. So if we can start there, that would be a wonderful way to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Lynn and Francis and everyone. It's been amazing, to see all the places that you come from, and it is very exciting. So thank you. So I started connecting with mindfulness because of an autoimmune illness that I had when I was 18 or so. I couldn't move my hands properly. I started seeing that they were painful. I couldn't grab a glass. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, this is the illness is showing up in the body, but it's not something that comes from the body. I think it's something deeper, because I am I was very young at that time. I was 18, and he was like, this is like a rheumatoid arthritis or something, like a juvenile version of it. And then he said, you can take cortisol, or you can go and find out what actually happened, what is going on. And he said, just meditate, run marathons, which I was very grateful for. And then through ancestral medicine, but through mindfulness work, I realized that I actually had kept a memory of the war, having been born in Colombia in the 80s. So that's where I started investigating through mindfulness what was the source of that illness. And it has taken years.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this personal story. I'm so aware of for how many people who teach any mindfulness-based program have this deep experience of their own healing, of their own journey with mindfulness. And so can you say a little bit about how that brought you to the UN and working in all these countries? And whenever you can, if you want to show that beautiful map that you have of where you've been.
Yeah, totally. So I can start there. Yes, I can show the map, or I can as well, because it's not showing up. Let me see 1 second. But while I organize this, I started doing mindfulness work out of a understanding, know that what has happened to me and my hands came from a memory of war. And what started happening is that I worked in armed conflicted places in Colombia first. So this is like an interactive map of the places where I have worked. But yeah, my first question was in Colombia, and it was, how is it that we can actually heal at the individual level, but at the collective level, from such a memory, which is like an armed conflict and war. So I started working with teachers in Tumaco, Colombia, and then that led me to working into all these places. Yeah, and from Tumaco, which is a heavily armed, conflicted place in Colombia, I started working with the UN in South Sudan, which is around here. Yeah. So yeah, I can go deeper into that, but yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's so powerful to see all these places that you have, that your work has touched, that the work of the world is being supported through mindfulness. And I'm struck by those are all different cultures. Those are all different places, different languages. How was it to enter those different spaces, as well as knowing that you had something in common, like living in war-torn areas, the extreme conditions, knowing something about that, but also not knowing all of the cultures and communities that you were stepping into? How did you and how do you bridge that or connect with that?
Mhm. Yeah, for me, having studied anthropology and a master's on peace building, it gave me a lot of ground around something that I think that mindfulness brings a lot, no, and help us like come closer and train in many ways, which is listening. And we
Mm,
not only listen with our ears, like we listening by like really being in a place and seeing how people eat, how they pray, no, like the different things that actually move the culture and the context. So that was very much part of the work, and I can share some pictures. Like, this was one of the first groups that I worked with. This was in Tumaco, Colombia, working with these are teachers. And it was very interesting because on one of the first sessions that we started doing uh, a body scan, they said, this is actually helping us rest. And in resting, there's some like a remembering of
mm,
their collective resources. So the next session, they brought a lot of their ancestral like plants and their drums and their singing. So it was like the MBSR curriculum started being filled with their own collective resources, with their own memory, to that is actually what helps, like people come together and heal collectively from war.
So what you're saying, so it's so powerful, Paula, that also those women recognized that field, that space of the class of what you were teaching offered them that connection. So the remembrance of the body. I mean, you speak a lot about, I want to make sure my words are correct here, interoceptive safety, somatic
Mm.
experiencing, ancestral practices. Can you, and would really welcome your stories, just like this one, of the remembrance of collective resources for healing, and how mindfulness and MBSR, the way you brought it, allowed that integration to happen so it wasn't separate.
Mm. Yeah, so with what you're saying, I feel like sharing this one. This picture is from South Sudan. These men here are Nuer people. They are one of the ethnies in South Sudan, and these people, like, there was an internal conflict and a genocide against, like, from the Dinkas against the Nuer, which is these people, and these men had buried their own people for many years. And I was working with them, and at the same time, when you work in a humanitarian setting, you have to do many things at the same time. So I was working with this group of people, but then one day I had to go 4 hours away from the capital, which is Juba. And 4 hours away, there was a town that is called Capoeta. We had to go and give some like food in that place. And there was a man who had fled from that town many years ago because of the armed conflict. And when he heard that we wanted to go, he said, "Oh, I want to go." And he came with us. We took him in the car. And when we arrived, he saw his friends, his family. Of course, he didn't help us with what we were going to do because it was so exciting, like seeing his people. And then when we came back to Juba, to the capital, by road, the guy was like very uncomfortable in his body. He was just like, he couldn't be in the car. And at some point he just said, "Can you please stop the car?" And the driver was now like a bit awkward because we are given, like, we can't stop on the roads, it's not safe. And he was in real need, so we thought, okay, maybe he just needs to pee or something. So he came down from the car, and then the first thing that he did was going to the ground, just like his full body just there. And then he waited, like he was just there for a couple of seconds. It was not long. And we were like, but are you okay? Do you need something else? And he was like, I just need this. And then when he came back in the car, what he could articulate a little bit was like, I was waiting for me.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
No, like this thing of his body was there, but he was still like he couldn't put himself together. No, like his mind was still somewhere else. And I was doing mindfulness work in South Sudan, and then I saw this guy, and I was just like, this person understood everything that you need to understand about what mindfulness is. No, and then that helped me as well, like realized there is in every possible culture a contemplative practice, like in wherever I have been, like, and this, what the question that you ask around safety, like how do you create a place of safety or something that is safety in, like safe enough for people,
Yeah.
is connected with listening to their own cultural resources that oftentimes, and because of war or because of conflicts of different kinds, we forget that we have.
Mm.
So what started happening with these men in this picture, which were the grave diggers, the diagnosis that they had was a PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because they were having nightmares of the people like they had buried and the conflict. And what was interesting is that they are here very seated, but the first sessions, they were just sleeping. Like the body scan, like no body scan, like they went into REM super
Yeah.
quickly. And that made me realize, like, it at this stage, who cares about holding attention and not sleeping? It is about resting. The question is about bringing the possibility of remembering, belonging, identity, dignity. And that happens through that possibility of resting together in a place that feels safe enough to catch up on sleeping. And then as sessions went by, they were able to hold attention more, when the body could rest, they could hold attention a bit more. And then what happened out of them was like, we haven't done any ritual to our people. We haven't buried our people with our rituals, with our traditional rituals. So the MBSR sessions starting just being a way of remembering collectively the ways in which they would bury their people. And in that way, like it all just like completely opened for me. And that same year I could meet John Kabat-Zinn, and I told him like, session number 4, and we're not even like, there's nothing of the curriculum that we're doing. This is what's happening. No. Well, it's not nothing on the curriculum that we're doing,
Right.
but it's having its own version. No, it's having its own taste, its own meaning for people. Because again, in these circumstances, for me, mindfulness is very much how we can remember that connection of identity, dignity, belonging.
And the body. I'm so struck by that, Paula, because how much trust it takes to sleep with other people. This safe
Mm.
enough space for those people to sleep together, which
Mhm.
we know sleep is a huge restorative. And here it allowed them to get filled up with that enough to do this work of recollection. And it makes me think too of the conversations we often have in MBSR of form and essence. And so here, maybe class 4
Mm.
form isn't exact, but the essence
Yeah.
seems quite in line.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you'd be interested in offering us, because this experience of the interoceptive safety and
Mm.
embodiment, if you would lead us in a brief practice of that so we can feel it here together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much mindfulness practice. But yeah, so um, the most important part of this now is the understanding of the nervous system is always asking the question around safety. Yes, like it's like, am I safe enough? Am I not safe enough? So there's a very important way to start working with this somatic possibility and this interoceptive awareness, which is orientation. Yeah.
Mm.
So my first invitation for the people here who have joined, yes, which I cannot see, but I can, yeah, imagine. Yeah, if it's possible for us to take a moment to look around the place that we're in, even if it's home or if you happen to be outside or in a car, where are you? Mm. And if it's possible to orient yourself in relationship to space with your eyes, it can happen with eyes closed as well, no? If you make the experiment even with eyes closed, hopefully not if you're driving, yes. But even with your eyes closed, you know where a window is or where a door is, no? So how is this possibility of activating this orientation or relationship to a space? And if possible, bringing that orientation towards the experience of your own body being held. Yeah, so how do you know that your body is being held? Noticing the places where it touches surfaces. If you happen to be walking, how is it that the feet are walking in that surface? If you happen to be seated, fully attentive, listening, how is it that you feel your seat bones being held by your chair? Like, how is it that you can orient yourself in relationship to space, in a relationship to your body and the ground? And there being a very beautiful ally to remembering gravity and to remembering that of being held, which is our jaw. Huh? So if it's possible to notice the distance between the upper teeth and the lower teeth, and noticing even if in that micro movement, no, like remembering that gravity. If something happens at the level of your shoulders, your neck, the base of the skull, and even how your breath happens. And taking a moment there to just notice that being held constantly. And how the body is being felt through the different surfaces each person in this call is part of, maybe different for the 301 people connected. How is it? Where is it? And in that noticing, yeah, perhaps bringing movement if needed. No, maybe a leg needs a small movement, or the chest, the spine. Maybe there's no movement that's needed. How is it that this laboratory that we're making here together, the 301 people, has 301 formulas? Because it's not about what's being guided. It is about what is being heard in your body by each one of you. And that may look, different, no? It may be the feet or the seat bones. It may shift. Again, it may need movement or stillness. In this listening that mindfulness allows us to cultivate, how do we listen to what it's being said inside? And that little quality, it's what is called interoceptive awareness. That quality of, I'm here, while doing whatever it is that you're doing. Mindfulness is like this quality, knowing that we are alive constantly. Mm. Yeah. So even if you are, again, doing something else as you're listening, how are you doing it? If you happened to be fully present and connected, allowing maybe to bring movement to your eyelids if they were closed, if your eyes were already open, just noticing again how it's to be in the room if your eyes were closed, giving the chance to integrate shape and light within your own range of vision. Noticing if there's a need of movement or stretching or and then coming back here to the group.
Paula, thank you. Thank
Thank
you. And
you.
if those of you who were able to practice along, you're welcome to put things in the comment section how that was. So here's interoceptive safety, and just so appreciate the clarity of that, Paula, time and space, and I'm very deeply touched by the way you brought us together, 300 and however many of us, one
Mhm.
of these individuals, and yet in a shared space, this collectivity that of remembrance is really extraordinary.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because one of the things that I really wanted to share here, in this webinar is how I have been working for the UN for a long time, and oftentimes I can't say that I do mindfulness work. Like it's banned. I cannot use the word mindfulness. The
Can you
reason
say
why it's
why?
because,
Yeah.
the reason why it's because It's one of my supervisors that's very, very high in the UN. He used to say that that's a very white privileged thing. It's very individualistic. It's very egoistic. It's just at the service of the well-being of one person. We're talking about collectives here. We're talking about, collective. Like he wouldn't say collective healing, but like collective circumstances. And what was very interesting is, and what has been very interesting for me is to realize, and to keep showing how mindfulness is absolutely like the opposite. This possibility of taking a look at my individual self actually opens awareness to what's happening to the collective in a way that is more aware and compassionate and connected. Like it's not about, when there's people like working with the UN and with first responders, they would often say, I don't have time for that. Like there's just no time for that. And it's interesting because what we explore is how mindfulness allows a quality of being constantly present that actually gives perspective for ourselves and for the collective that we are. Like, how is it that we can understand ourselves as a system within a system and systems within systems? The UN, unfortunately, it's a very disarticulated kind of place, and the collectives that you work in, like offices, are often like, it's like emotionally it's too much because of all the circumstances, but because there's no space and time to feeling each other as a collective being in correspondence. If one nervous system is dysregulated, they're all going to collapse. How is it that we can understand that this individuality is actually and completely related with the other, like self-care or this possibility of awareness? It's not a luxury. It's an ethical imperative. It's ethical for the people who work with other to have that integrity and that connection with self. That doesn't mean being constantly in the window of tolerance and constantly feeling perfectly regulated. It's not about that, no. It's how is it that we can know ourselves and listen so that we can work with our nervous systems as ally and not the mercy of it.
Mhm.
And that possibility opens the conversation of collectives and collective healing and collective capacities, which is, I think, a conversation that is very important to have in this moment. And I'm very happy to be able to come back to the mindfulness work and say, I do mindfulness.
Yes, as you're speaking, I can feel this synergy, and the synergy that is developed through what we know about the paradox of mindfulness. So here it's through turning towards, right? We turn towards the activation, and then we know it, and then can act more skillfully. But just as you were speaking, I can feel that, in certain systems of thought around the individual, though some would say some of those walls are breaking down. Some of this collective energy is rising up and is really beginning to lead more for all of us. Those of us who've been in those individual systems are also suffering greatly from that and need this kind of connection. I'm sure that, I'm sure I'm speaking for many in that.
Yeah, I think that at this stage now of what's happening in the world and like the current situation, this knowing this correspondence and this as well, like, I'm sorry, this is not a picture from Nigeria. I don't know where it is, but I had a picture prepared, but it's not there anyway. Which is interesting because we are working right now in a project in Nigeria with cassava producers and in Colombia with rice women, like to hold the memory of the rice and how it is produced and the cassava in Nigeria. And it has been very interesting how mindfulness also has like this access to connecting not only and feeling the connectedness among humans, but with the more than human world. And this remembering of our connection to the earth and the reciprocity that we're in because of like being living creatures. So it's again, at this stage in the world, yeah, we see many things happening, and the essential connection of finding each other interconnected, but in relationship with Earth, no, with this
Mm.
possibility of like, I'm taking care of this nervous system. I can take my eyes from my navel, take a look at others, and take a look at this
Mm.
Earth that we're part of, that needs our awareness, like
Mm.
needs our attention, no? So it is big. Like mindfulness for me, it's like the biggest spectrum of understanding our being humans and living creatures.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. And I'm aware that you go into these places, you meet these um, humans, these communities, and we are using technology here to connect. And so using technology wisely so we all can learn, so we can engage with this kind of practice and expand how we consider the mindfulness that we're bringing. And in a small, I don't want to say in a small way, but all of us who teach online also may encounter this kind of possibility of
Mm.
moving beyond boundaries, cultures. And would you have any thoughts on that and kind of wisdom for there? Many people are on this call who are teachers or teachers in training. What would are there
Mm.
caveats or cautions or things you could add here?
Yeah, I totally. So I think David Treleaven's work with trauma sensitive mindfulness has been very useful in the way of like this possibility of exploring the options and in a trauma sensitive way. And for me, one of the gifts that technology brings is that people are in their own place and
Yeah.
space. And when we talk about this safe enough, creating this safe enough places or spaces virtually, if you realize or if you can recall how I was guiding the practice a moment ago, maybe there's people here who were walking or were in a car or were, yes, like that people know and mostly because of the work that I do, like I work with first responders, like that they are not like the time is super limited and is for them, it feels very safe to know that they can come to the class while they're cooking or
Ah,
while they are, no, like it is their space and it doesn't matter where they are.
yeah.
The possibility is there for us to come and come back into remembering this quality. No, because we explore a lot about like, what is it that we're talking about? Are we talking about having the perfect setup, absolutely
Mm.
silent? And that's not life for 90% of the population. Yes. So it is messy, chaotic, no? And it's like, and that is welcome. So giving room for that is super important. And I would say as well, between sessions, having WhatsApp groups is super important to record practices, to keep it going and following with what's happening with the groups. That's actually as well
Mm.
super, super helpful. Um, but this of like people knowing that the space is for them. And it doesn't matter if they arrive 10 last minutes of the session, no, because they couldn't make it. It's just like, it's your 10 minutes for you to sit with yourself, no, to have like an excuse to explore.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you, Paula.
Thank
I'm
you, Lynn.
Fran, I'm wondering if Fran, you want to come in with any questions. This has been so rich. I feel like we could go on for a long time, and I want to make sure the audience has a chance to ask.
Thank you, Paula. I had to compose myself before coming
Oh,
back on.
sorry.
No, I'm just it's incredibly moving, the stories and the way that you embody the work that you're doing. It's inspiring. And I look forward to sharing the chat with you after this because it is, I'm sure you're not able to monitor it while speaking, but it is quite evident that it's very impactful, the work that you're doing. And so thank you. I do have some questions that have been submitted both from the live audience as well as a few that were submitted prior to the talk. I think we'll start with this one. So this is from Saeed. He says, Paula, I'm fascinated by your work and powerful stories. I was wondering how you make a connection and approach communities about your work and demonstrated that it would be meaningful and beneficial for them. Have you encountered skepticism and resistance from people, especially religious authorities in those countries? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, like skepticism, it's there. Um, I just feel that there's two things there. One is, again, listening to what's already there, like which are the cultural resources available. No, asking how is the way in which people would gather together, like those imams, let's say, like in the Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh. No, a lot of the conversations before I could do this work was like working with imams, which are like the religious authorities, and it would be just like spending time with them, like giving them just a moment to just sit and feel the chair and taking a moment to notice, no, like not even like going to the ground, like just taking, and they would say like, this is what you do. Interesting, it feels and then like giving the space to see like how it feels for them, like that invitation of the space, and just having a conversation with religious leaders about it, no, and then they would as well like come, and in the Rohingya camps there was like a whole historical memory center happening, and they were as well bringing their own prayers, their own remembering of the working with bamboo. Yeah, so it was just like it is actually an excuse for coming together in awareness to listen to each other with a quality that is a little bit, yeah, different.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. I want to just mention something because something showed up in the chat, which I also wanted to raise, which is this is from Diana Para. And I hope I'm capturing this, but I'm aware that if you look at all those places on the globe, these are not easy places. These are places where you're meeting human suffering in high degree, extreme circumstances. And there's a buoyancy to you. There's a quality of connectedness and heartfulness that I would really appreciate you speaking to, because I think many of us might feel like, how is she not daunted by this? And I'm sure there are times when you're crying and when there's strong emotion, and how, because you're human and we're all influenced by this, but there's something else
Mm.
here that allows you to do this that I would really appreciate if you can speak to.
I love this question, and I'm always crying. Yes, and I'm crying now. So, yeah. But I think that the best way that I have to explain this is, if anyone here has watched this film by David Attenborough that is called Earth, and it's beautiful because the first shot is in the middle of Chernobyl, and he says it's very moving. Like there's like Chernobyl, no, and there's this plant, and then he shows how plants have come back, no, in Chernobyl, and he's like, life is always want to live.
Mm.
And for me, I like, people say that, no, like you work in very hard places and you work with trauma. You know what? I work with the most beautiful thing that we human beings have, which is like, for me, is that like seeing this proud. Like if I was not working with that, I couldn't do this job. That is the most beautiful and exciting job, because it's like I'm actually in constant connection with life. And of course, there's suffering. Of course, there's difficulty. No, like I can think about this woman last year. She was at the border with Gaza, and she came back and she was like, I'm not connecting. with life anymore. Like I just can't. This is too much. Like I don't trust anything. I don't trust humans. Like what are we doing? No. And we gave time for her to explore that of not feeling anything. No.
Mm-hmm.
And then with giving time and space for not feeling anything, she suddenly had the memory of her son playing with a car.
Mm.
And it was like, and what happens when you think about your son? And then a little smile, and she was like, there is something. And it's like in that there is something, no, in that like there's a little window, and this knowing that that's enough, that's what helps us, like, like keep ourselves connected and grounded with this life that wants to live, and giving room for that, like for holding the complexity of pain and say like, yes, what are we doing as humanity? And exploring and giving time, and then something, well, if we don't have the chance for that, we're not going to make it. But what I have seen is that it's always there. It's beautiful.
And that's our inherent wholeness, right? What John Kabat-Zinn says, if as long as we're breathing, there's more right than wrong. And
Mm,
it's I would say
mm,
not just right, but whole and
mm.
expressive
Whole, yeah.
and radiant, actually. And it does get covered up. I mean, I love this life living through us and that
Mm,
connection. And mindfulness, at least in my experience, gives me the strength to both do that turning towards you. What you say is that with this woman is that she had the space to feel into the nothingness, which
mm,
most of us avoid, of like, oh, get over that, or do something quick to get out of it. But there is this living through those times.
mhm. Yeah, and that's the holding the complexity, of like everything is welcome.
Yeah.
And mhm, mm.
Thank you. Fran, any more on the
Oh, there are so many good questions. We will not have time for all of them, but I saw a question come through. Kendra asks, I see references to dance as a mindfulness medium from the Respira team. Can
Hmm.
Paula, can you talk more about the use of dance in the work that you do?
Mm. Yeah. Well, we do work with dance. We work with movement. Um, so yeah, I think there's like different layers to it. But dance, for example, with women in Tumaco was very important for that collective remembering of their own uh, ancestral resources. Yes, like their own emotional resources are very much connected with singing and dancing. Yes. But for other cultures, it's more mindful awareness around movement. So, for example, yeah, like last year with people from Egypt in the border with Gaza, was more around the awareness that we have while we make the prayer.
Mm.
Mm. So it's dancing, but it's relatedness to movement, because the awareness of movement helps this interoceptive awareness, which what is interoceptive awareness is this capacity to listening to what we need. Now, if it's to eat or go to the toilet, but maybe a movement that I need to do to feel less nervous in this conversation with Lynn Koerbel. Yes. Uh, so what is it now that we need, and dance really helps with that in the way that it as well, I think, helps move emotion. So
Mm,
yeah, but for me, and I want to bring a little bit more about when I talk about the quality. I was living in a refugee camp that could hold 15,000 people, and from one day to the other we had 35,000 people. It was like bad.
Mm.
And the first day we were giving food and going around like crazy, super dysregulated everyone, because it was a crazy emergency. At the end of that day, we were like, we're not going to make it to the end of the week. And what we said with the team was like, what if tomorrow, because we have to deliver this sorgo, which is like this, bean in Africa. If we have to deliver these sacks of a little bit of awareness to the way in which we are bringing the sacks up and the way in which we are giving them to people. We gave the same amount of food, but that compromise with like the awareness, no, like that's the quality. The work is there, the emergency is there. Like, of course, there's no time for going to the mountain and meditating in the park. No, it's in the moment, but it is a quality where there is the connection of dignity. There's dignity in my doing. There's dignity in my showing up. No, and that happens with that possibility of embodiment through dancing, through the gym, through no. But how is it that what are you really listening? Is that really helping you to listen, or is helping you to avoid you listening? Yeah, which is something that I find a lot as well with sports, no, which are amazing, but how much it's avoiding, no?
Yeah.
How much can we listen? It's that for me, it's more the not so much the.
And sometimes I know there's been questions about in these extreme situations with food and shelter barely being met, how could we afford, like mindfulness is a luxury, but you're actually saying, no, it's actually, it can be built right into these very extreme conditions in a way that is conveyed to people.
Yeah. And it is a way as well for, again, like gaining there's a way in which working with first responders means working with a lot of guilt, because people feel guilty that they have, for example, food to eat.
Yeah.
And then the people that they're working with don't know. And there's this thing of like, can we go into reflecting that if we're actually doing this work because we want to support others, if we happen to have a plate of food tonight, that's what is going to give us the actual energy for going tomorrow and giving our full presence, our full integrity. Because I feel that war not only kills people, like I think it wins when it takes dignity away from people.
Yes.
The energy of war doesn't feed from integrity, doesn't feed from dignity, doesn't feed from I'm fully present here for you. Yes, like I'm here and we are together and we're connected. Yes, and I give you this and you receive it in this way. Yes, we're like like war doesn't feed from that.
Beautiful. Yeah. I can feel that as you're expressing it. It's a powerful antidote to war, and that each person can actually embody. I wonder, Fran, should we start to wind this up? Would you like me to ask we have the closing question as
So
well.
longer. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I wish we could. This is fascinating. And I know that there have been so many people who have been so responsive to everything you've offered, Paula. So just like at the beginning, to end, looking at the future, where do you see the study and practice of mindfulness best serving humanity? In some ways, you've said it all, but please say more.
Yeah, I feel in remembering our resources, our individual and collective resources, the connection with ourselves, the connection with others, and the connection with the more than human world. Like this possibility of understanding that we can create systems of care. Yes, which is very much what I've like in my website. Like there's like these rings of care. Like I've been trying to give a little bit of a name to the work that I do, because sometimes I don't know how to name it. No, like it's how is it that we can create systemic care? And I think that is is one of the places where I see mindfulness work going to, and where it has been anyway.
And the speaking about it, I think, influences us to recognize that it can be in these seemingly small exchanges. Here's your beans, but
Mhm.
actually
Yeah.
have huge implications for the ongoing remembrance of this practice as human and human connecting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. Thank you so much, Paula. Deep, deep bows to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Lynn. Mm.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I wish we could go longer, and um, we will be sharing the link to the recording, both in an email, but it will also be up on our website soon. But Paula and Lynn, thank you so much for truly rich and deeply grounded conversation. You've given us a lot to reflect on, not just about mindfulness, but also what it means to listen, to honor culture, and meet one another with care and humility. And thank you to everyone who joined us today for being a part of this growing global community. We hope today's session offered something meaningful for your own practice, teaching, or inquiry. And before we close, I did want to just mention and invite you to sign up for next month's talk. And I will share the link in the chat. So, coming up on December 11th, we'll be joined by neuroscientist and best-selling author Amishi Jha, whose research explores how mindfulness can strengthen attention and build resilience under pressure. So, in this conversation, she'll share insights from her work with military service members, firefighters, and other high stakes professions, offering practical tools and scientific findings on how mindfulness can support clarity, connection, and performance when it matters most. And I will share the link to that.
It's a great follow-up from today's conversation, actually.
Mm.
Any other closing remarks, Lynn or Paula?
Just so much gratitude. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I'm very, very, very grateful to be here. And I'm actually trying to catch up with all the comments and everything. Like, yeah, I hope I can stay a little bit and read. But thank you so much for the presence and for the engagement, no?
Yeah.
And everyone.
Yeah, and I will do you one better. I'll share all of the comments and the questions. We do read them all. So even if we weren't able to respond directly to the individual comments and questions, do know that they have an impact, and I will share those with Paula as well. We are just so deeply grateful for the time, in the message that you were able to share with us today. It's truly inspiring. And thank you everyone for being a part of it. And be well, be safe, take care.